it's also important to see how, in terms of the connections between the various sectors of the city, to see how the church can be a connecting point between all the various things that make up the city. Now, sometimes when we think about church, we think about an institution. And when we think about church as an institution, we think about its history, we think about its locality, we think about its future, and so on and so forth. But perhaps you can step outside of that complex idea of the church as an institution and think of the church as a very mobile thing, a very flexible thing. Think of the church as a project, as a way of doing what Jesus did, going out there, meeting people at their point of need, speaking to them. You know, Jesus broke every rule you can think of in terms of relationships. You know, he spoke to women, he touched lepers. You know, he was always there. He was called the friend of sinners, you know, gluttonous and all that sort of things. Not many people would like to be associated with that kind of negative syntax. When we say we want to do mission, sometimes we want to do it in a puristic way. Whereas Jesus actually, he broke all the molds you can think of. I think church has to be flexible. Church has to be like what we are doing tonight. You know, all the worship style, the variety of people, and so on and so forth. So I think there is, if you ask me, there is something negative about the church as an institution. But there is something also positive about the church as an ever-flexible project of reaching people at the point where you find them, in the marketplace, in their businesses, and so on and so forth. And I think most of us tonight, those of us who are here, we probably have connections in terms of networks of Christians in business, Christians in politics, Christians in the health sector, Christians in education. And we are trying to see how we can reach people at that level, rather than just simply waiting and saying, here is our church building, and this is our program, and we want you to come in. I think it's important for us to be able to say, here is who we are, and we are invading your space for positive reasons. We are invading your space for positive reasons. I think that's the kind of church thank you so much. Thank you.
We've spoken about how we believe the church is simplistically the continuation of the life of Jesus on earth. That's what it is. Jesus ascends into heaven. He says, I'm going to leave the Holy Spirit. Now it's down to you guys. And I find it amazing when you read through the ministry of Jesus. He doesn't really give you many instructions how to build church. I know that Paul the Apostle gives us a few directives, but really it's like Jesus is like, just do what I did, say what I said, love how I love, speak how I speak. And sometimes I think we can overcomplicate what church is really about. Like you're saying, we make it this institutional organization. No, it's not. It's the hands and feet of Jesus walking throughout the city, praying for the sick, speaking life, being generous, helping those who are lost, and bringing clarity to those who are unclear, and integrating with those who are sometimes excluded. And I think if we do that, maybe we'll be able to see some things. I think the challenge with that, sometimes it gets a bit messy. And so, Lizzie, when it comes to kind of like tidy church, when it comes to kind of, how messy do you think the church should become?
Well, I think the church should be pretty messy, because it's more of a hospital than it is a place that you have to tidy yourself up before you come. So we have something called Lighthouse at St George's, which is our community for those that have been bruised and broken by the storms of life. So there's sometimes people are staying at the crypt, or people are struggling with addiction or mental health crises and that kind of thing. And it's pretty messy down there, because we just ask people to come as they are, and we try to introduce them to Jesus. And then, hopefully, their lives will begin to be transformed and begin to change. But even if that process takes a long time, even if it's one step forward and two steps back, we want to walk alongside them through that.
What are some of the challenges, David, that you think, the major challenges that we face in the city? Maybe spiritual challenges? I know sometimes we don't like to talk about kind of the darkness and, spiritual powers, but do you think there are things that we need to pray into and speak into?